Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cyber Chat with Antoine Matthews. I am so excited to have today's guest on the podcast so everybody can get some great value. She goes by the name of Deja, and we connected over LinkedIn. She has her own business. She has a very extensive background when it does come to tech. So with that, could you introduce yourself to the people?
Yes, of course. So, like Antoine said, my name is Deja. I am currently a network engineer, working my way up into IT project management, and I do own a couple of businesses. One being a writing business, and then the other being a coaching and consulting business.
Got you. So no, that is a lot of stuff already. So you got your own business, coaching, consulting, resume writing, and you still do your engineering. Um, can you kind of tell us a little bit of background? Like, how did you get involved in first in tech? Because that's what the podcast is mostly about. Like, how did you get involved with that?
Okay. So I started tech from I took a AP computer science class in high school, and that's kind of what introduced me to technology. And I was like, this is it. This is for me. It was like that first class that really challenged me, but was also inspiring. It was like, wow, I'm challenged, but I really, really like this. So then after that, I went on to pursue a computer science major for my bachelor's degree. And then I ended up getting my master's in IT once I started my full-time job. So I started that way, worked my way up, and I liked the domain of networking. So networking, cybersecurity, that was kind of where I was most motivated by.
Yeah. So what got you like interested? Like you said, out of all, it's a lot of different things you can pick when it comes to tech, but you said networking and cybersecurity, that's like your niche.
Exactly.
What,
Yeah.
what, what happened with that?
So I did a lot of software development and I liked it. I just was like 40 hours a week doing development. I don't know, like maybe just a couple hours doing some scripts, which I do in networking, and that I consider fun. But I just couldn't imagine just spending all day just coding. And then I did a database assistant position with the CDC, and I really enjoyed that. But I just same thing. It's just like, oh, this is cool, but I'm not passionate about it. But when it came to networking, being able to figure out what kind of problems does a network have, being able to deep dive and troubleshoot an issue and analyze packets, like that was the same thing that first computer science class felt to me. It was challenging, it was interesting, and things were constantly changing. There's always something to learn.
That's cool. So it's like you went once you got there, it seemed like that was a thing that piqued your interest.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just I want to just rewind a little bit. I know we just started, but how were some of the ways that you actually found your first job, like going
Okay.
into tech?
No, yeah. So I feel like I found my first job in a non-conventional way. So I first started by looking at government roles. So I did a couple of internships and they were all government internships. So I kind of looked for scholarship programs, and that's how I found the job that I currently work at now, which is for the Department of the Navy. I applied through the SMART program, and SMART's like an acronym. So I applied through the SMART program. They would pay for a year and a half of my college, and I'd have to work with them for a year and a half. Obviously, I'd get paid after I had graduated, and they did give me a stipend and pay for if they paid full tuition, and then I think a stipend of somewhere like 20K or something like a year, and they just paid that in monthly installments. So I was like, why would I not choose this? They're paying me to go to school, they're paying for school, and I have a guaranteed job when I graduate.
That is, so you say it's called the SMART program.
Yeah, the SMART program.
Do you know what that acronym is? So we could,
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I can definitely get that information for you guys after.
okay, well, no, that's perfect. So everybody listen, that's a plug. Look, they not
Yeah,
only did they pay for you to go to school, but they gave you a stipend as well.
exactly. And it was definitely worth it. You don't have to work, you can just literally focus on school, do well in school, and then they're like, here's this job.
So what were the requirements to be eligible for that?
So some of the requirements are they base it off of your performance in school, what you're doing. So you would have to have a higher GPA to be competitive, and then do things within school. So whether you're in leadership positions, whether you're doing undergraduate research, whether you just do a lot of side projects and you have something to show for it, you have a GitHub or something to show that you've been doing these projects. They just kind of look at that, and you just have to be competitive against other people.
Yeah, no, I love that. So competitive, but also, you want to bring a body of work, like I'm actually wanting to do this and this is what I bring to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, that's awesome. So you have a bachelor's, you have your master's degree. So I'm on your LinkedIn profile, and You got more certifications than I got fingers. Did you have these certifications when you first applied, like when you got out of school, or is this something that you attained afterwards?
So I obtained all of my certifications except for one after I got out of school. So I got the Network Plus while I was still in school because I wanted to be prepared for when I started a network engineering job. I was like, let me make sure I get this cert because a lot of my like classes, they taught like the fundamentals of networking, but they didn't teach enough. So I wanted to make sure I got that. And then
So
everything else was after.
with the Network Plus, do you feel like that was like, how do you feel that benefited you? Like first with the knowledge base, because you said school was kind of like an entry level. I'm assuming, Network Plus probably gave you a better understanding, but then
Yes.
also making you competitive. Like, did you feel like any benefit with that?
Oh, definitely. I feel like a lot of people don't get certifications until after they graduate, but I realize that there's a really good benefit in doing them with your education. So you take a networking class, then go deeper with the cert that would be somewhat equivalent to what you just did and kind of be able to apply those skills to a certification. A degree and a certification, especially in tech, are kind of really important. It's not really like, oh, I have a degree, so I don't need those, or I have certification, so I don't need a degree. Like they both go hand in hand and they're both pretty valuable.
No, I love that because that was going to be my follow-up question. Like, can somebody do one or the other? But say, for example, like somebody couldn't go to school because, like our audience is broad. Some people are in school. Like I did the same route you did. I was in school for my master's. I said, hey, I want to go deeper. I got my certs. But there's other people, that might not be able to go to school, might not want to go to school, might just say, I want to just go to the certs. Would that still be a good option in your opinion?
Oh, definitely. I think if you can go to the certs and have that hands-on experience doing stuff, so like whether you have to work your way all the way up from, let's say, help desk, and you're going to work your way up, you're going to get the certs along the way. That is a valid route, and a lot of people take that and can still reach the same route as everyone else. It's just a matter of just proving yourself, doing side projects, spending some of your free time actually trying to learn and better yourself and have that experience to show for it.
Man, I love your answers. You feeding me so much good content. So,
No,
so
thank you.
what are some of the side projects that you did that stood out to you, or some that you just you liked?
Okay. So I guess a lot of my undergraduate, I did a lot of projects. I don't know what was wrong with me. I was just always into some sort of project. So I did a lot of undergraduate research. So one project I did is we developed a block programming language for students with learning disabilities. So we were trying to teach them math and reading like simultaneously, and it was intended for younger students. So that was a lot of like JavaScript, basic math, and just really being able to teach and code and also kind of like create a game that was interactive that like a young kid, like let's say age 5, would actually want to play. So that was kind of my first research project. And then I did a couple after that. I did another one where it was like an IoT, Internet of Things, motion gesture system. So basically, we would move our hand from left to right, and we would get the robot to also turn. Exactly. We'd also get the robot to turn and to maneuver. And then it also accepted basic voice commands. So stop, the car would stop, or go or something, and it would go left, and it would actually make these actions. And then we also created a sort of GUI for it so that on the screen, if you weren't listening or you weren't watching, you would see that it was given the command to go. It would say it on the screen. And that we used like Raspberry Pis for this. We used a lot of Python and kind of created this whole system. So it was really cool. And the application for it was a smart classroom. We were trying to show that you could have a smart classroom and use these different concepts to create like a classroom where the teacher can move their hand and something happens on the board or something like that. So it was just a proof of concept type of project.
You just blew my mind on so many levels. Like that is, both of those projects were cool, but this last one, like that, the first thing I thought of is when we were kids, like, remember the soccer boppers?
Mm-hmm.
Like they have those at Dave and Buster's, and I was like, oh man, like I can imagine like doing the body motions, and that could be like a fun game. But
exactly,
it also made me think about when I was in marketing. Like I had a lot of doctors that we would go to their events, and they were talking about how they were using, the I guess the improvement of technology to be able to do surgeries, doing something similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Somebody over the other side of the world can do surgery on somebody locally, through that same kind of project that you did. So, man, that is awesome.
Cool. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay, okay, you got me hyped up. I'm hyped. All right, so we got the project. So that's something that you were able to actually use. I'm assuming to help you get into the SMART program too, right?
Yeah, so I had the first one definitely, and like the research for the second one when I had applied for the program. So I was able to show in my scholarship essays, like, hey, I've done undergraduate research. I'm also involved in different organizations like Women in Technology, Student Government Association. So it's like I am actively doing things, and I have a passion in cyber, I have a passion in networking. So I was able to kind of show that and express that I've been doing projects outside of just simply going to class and doing the class project.
Can you speak on some of those other like not programs, but the groups that you're a part of, or that
Oh
just so I
yeah.
can get people like understanding, like you can join these organizations.
No, I agree. So I'm always a big advocate for joining student like organizations while you're in college. I know a lot of people, they're like, ah, it's a waste of time, but you really do gain valuable experience, and you also gain valuable connections, because these are people I can also like reach out to now and be like, hey, I know you're a biology major, which I might not usually be like around because that's not my major. I can ask them questions. I can ask them for advice and whatnot. So I was in student government. I started off as senator for first year students, and I worked my way up to treasurer. So when I was treasurer, I, had to execute a budget. I think we had, let's say, $1 million, and we kind of gave that budget to all of the different student organizations. So that was really fun. I did a lot in that position. It was exciting to kind of like work my way up. So senator for first year students, senator for the College of Computing, and then finally treasurer. And then I also did a residential hall association, where we planned events for people that were living in our residential building. So I was the vice president of that organization, and that was really fun in event planning. Like, I don't think a lot of people get the opportunity to plan an event and actually see what people like. So I thought that was kind of exciting. And then there was a couple of other ones I did, like Women in Technology. I had a role in that, and it was just a matter of like helping other women learn how to code, learn how to gain confidence in classes and whatnot. Because, as you know, tech is not a very like woman-oriented field. So that was
Mhm.
super exciting to kind of be a part of that. And then just other small little organizations here and there. I was a member of a lot of other Association of Computing and Machinery and stuff like that.
Wow, that is impressive. You do so much. Like,
Thanks.
and just talking to you, like I can tell you're a people person, and like it sounds like you're really involved in building your network in that community, but also giving back a lot.
Exactly.
Which we definitely gonna touch on later, because we got to get to your business. But
Okay.
okay, so now let's fast forward back to where we were at. You got your first job, and where was it at, and what role did you start off at?
Okay, so I was living in Georgia, and I flew all the way across the country to come to nice, sunny California. So it was a big
Hey.
move, definitely a big move. So I started my job at the Department of the Navy. I started as a network engineer. That was my official job title. Did you want me to dig a little deeper into kind of like what I started doing?
Yeah, just so, because like people might not know what a network engineer. I know
Okay,
you know what it is, but
yeah. So I started off as a network engineer, but at least what I do in my role, I'm in charge of basically setting up test events for the Marine Corps. So they plan on using some sort of system in the field, and they basically want to test it out, see what impact it might have on the network. So we set up a lot of test events for, let's say they want to test software number one, and they want to compare it against software number two. So we would go in there, we would set up an environment, a virtual environment using like a couple of servers, a couple of switches and routers, and we just set up a whole entire system as if we were going to be out there in the field. And then we set up some test cases to compare software one to software two, and then we do the test, conduct the test, do the analysis. So that's looking at packets using Packet Tracer and similar software programs to figure out like, okay, what was going on the network, how many packets were lost, what impact does this have? And then from there, we create a test report. We've created test reports that might be pages, recently created one that was 80 pages. So they can definitely vary in length. And then we might have a presentation with whomever asked us to do this test in the first place, and basically give them a review of, we don't recommend it or we do recommend it based off of these factors. So I do a lot of that. When I first started, I was supposed to, just kind of like watch, learn, but I
Mhm.
ended up really just showing leadership skills, and they really enjoyed that. So I went like naturally into being part of an event to leading an event within merely a couple of months. And now that's kind of the position I've taken into, where I do a lot of leading of events. I've now received a promotion, I think like last October, and now I'm considered a project engineer. I work for like
Congrats.
one part. Oh, thank you. I work for one particular system. And I know project engineer isn't like a term a lot of people hear, but it's a mixture of a project manager and an engineer. So I am a project manager slash engineer for a one particular system, and I'm currently getting more certs to oversee like testing and components for that system.
Awesome. That so like you said, once you started, the first couple of weeks, months, you're probably learning, you're sitting back, just shadowing people, I'm assuming. When
Oh
you said
yeah.
they started seeing like leadership abilities in you, like what are like that's what I'm interested in. Like I love the day-to-day, but what are some of those things oh my God, I love your energy. So, like what are some of the things that they noticed or that you did to help you stand out, so that you could move forward and progress?
Okay. So that's where I would say I go back to those undergraduate research projects where I led every project that I was in, because I just naturally had like, I was very organized. I was able to like manage a team effectively, get us all on schedule. I was able to like take charge, but also like step back when there was someone on the team who knew how to do machine learning, and that wasn't my strength. So I was able to do that very quickly at my job in our role. So it's like a lot of things weren't organized. I was like, hey guys, let's do this. Okay, well, they were like, wow, this is actually really helpful. And then keeping people on track, giving updates, creating systems, and creating like rubrics. Like, how are you guys going to evaluate the system? Like, oh, we were just thinking that it would be a good idea to just like take random notes, but why don't we have a rubric? Why don't we implement something that makes this more structured? Like, oh wow, that's a great idea. We didn't really kind of think about having it that organized. So I was able to kind of introduce all of these things so quickly that they were like, why don't you just kind of like organize and help plan this entire event? Like, you're doing a good job of keeping everybody updated, you're keeping everybody motivated, and you're really keeping us on track.
What would you say to somebody that has that same ability, but they might not be so forthcoming? They might be, hey, I'm new to the organization, I don't really want to share my ideas. Because all those things that you just talked on right now those are all traits everybody loves, and some people might be more
Exactly.
reserved. So like what would you say for somebody that, hey, go out there and start giving your input, throw in your 2 cents?
I think the biggest thing for me is like I've always not haven't I've never I've always tried to like not be afraid to like just get out there and just do it. Because when I used to do that, like when I was younger, one of the biggest problems was things would go wrong down the line. And I personally was like, man, I knew I should have said something. And then like I let the whole team down. So when you think of it in that fashion, where it's like if you know something that could literally like be the detriment of the team, that could really hurt the team, and you just have it in your head, you're not just letting yourself down, you're letting down the whole team. And when you think of it that way, you're like, hey guys, like I'm doing this for us. I want us to succeed. And when you have that we us mentality, you can't be selfish and hold in information. And when you think of it that way, you'll suddenly find yourself like, man, I don't really want to speak up, but like I got to do this for us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nah, that's awesome. So right, so at your current role, that's what you're doing. Like now you're the lead. You got like the mix of the two jobs, and you said that you are going to go back for more certs. At this point, like
Yes.
what certifications are you working towards?
So I just finished up. Some of the certs I have are like the CCNA, which is the Cisco networking one. I've done Azure Fundamentals. I've done Network Plus, Security Plus. So I've done a lot in networking and security. And now I'm really focused on honing in some of the project management ones. So I just did an Certified Scrum Master cert. I just did a licensed Agile Coach cert. And I'm currently working on the CAPM, which is a Certified Associate Project Manager, and that leads into the PMP, which a lot of people really know. That's one of the most well-known project management certs. So I'm trying to get like hone in onto the management side, and then I'll probably circle back and do a lot more of the IT ones. I think I might go to the next level of Azure, or I might do the equivalent for AWS.
If I could say, you know what, I'm studying for an exam right now, and they keep bringing up Azure questions. Like I did AWS. I like AWS. I would say definitely do it. It's awesome. But
Okay.
either route that you go, I think you would be doing great. I did have a quick question. Like, what are some of the resources that you use, or how do you prepare for your certifications?
Okay, so preparing for certifications, I always try to give myself time. So I start by reading the book, and I take notes on everything, because these notes are valuable, because more often than not, no one's going to go back to that book in 6 months. But when you have your notes on your computer, you can just like control F and just look for different things like, hey, I have a problem. I remember reading about this. You can't really do that with a physical book, but you can with some notes, and you can go back and you're like, oh, this is what that concept was, and kind of refresh, read back on it. When you're bored, you can pull it up on your phone and you can just kind of review things. So I start with the book. I take really good notes. Then I try to go to YouTube or wherever they're offering some free videos that I can watch on some of the concepts or the ones that I might have like more questions on and need clarification. So I watch all of those videos. There's tons of places you can find free courses where they're like, hey, here's a free CCNA course. And then, go through it. I then do some practice questions. So I take a look at some practice questions, try to do them, might fail a couple of times, and just kind of keep going from there and kind of see like, can I even answer these questions? I know a lot of people, they will take a practice test in the beginning to see how bad they did, to use that as kind of motivation to keep going. There's also some apps for some of the certifications that I'm taking where it's like a free app. You get only a subset of questions for free, and you got to pay for the other ones. Like I just use the free questions from there. And then sometime between taking the practice test, I schedule the exam, because if I don't schedule the exam, I'm going to procrastinate. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But once I have it scheduled, I'm like, I cannot reschedule unless something like an emergency happens. I tell myself I'm sticking to that date. So then you basically set a date for how long you're going to take the exam. So it's time to set up like a really intense study plan. And if that's every night, you're reviewing your notes and you're taking 10 questions out of your practice test, then that's what you have to do.
Man, that's all great stuff. That's we have a very similar study habit style, but okay. The only thing I don't take notes. I'm starting to think, no, I don't. And so I do it backwards. So I watch the videos first, because usually I'm like, all right, I'm really visual, but for me, like in order to retain a lot of the information, I study it. So I'll go and actually read the books afterwards, and then like it's just like it sticks. But I wish I did write notes, because 2 or 3 years down the road, I might, even a month from now, I might forget something. And that quick reference is good.
Exactly.
Did you have any like special software that you use for taking notes?
Oh, no, not really. I literally just pull out Word or Google Docs if I want to be able to access it from anywhere, essentially. But I just really just try to just take strategic notes on things that matter. And I like referencing it years down the line. You take so many certs that you can't carry around a book bag, but you can carry around your laptop, or not even, you have your phone all the time, and Google Docs is perfect for that.
Yeah, keep it in the cloud.
Exactly.
All right, awesome. So now let's move on to the really, really, really good stuff. So earlier we talked on how you like to engage people and you really like to be involved in helping people, reach their goals. We might have talked to this a little bit before the interview, but let's take this into your business. Outside of your professional career, you got the resume business, you're doing a whole lot of things. Like, can you talk about that and share some stuff with us?
Okay, yes. So after I finished my master's program, I was like, what am I going to do with all this free time? So I started to launch my business. So my business is Tyla's Writing Services, and I do a lot of resume writing and coaching through that business. I also do a lot of writing for businesses as well. So whether they need content for a blog or email marketing, or if they need back-end content, like they need content for maybe their website, maybe some technical reports or statements of works that they might have with their other customers. So I do a lot of that, and it's all based on like when it comes to your resume, a lot of people have a hard time talking about themselves and kind of elaborating on those things into a document. So I help them out a lot in that regards. And usually they're like, wow, I didn't even know this was me. I didn't know I did all these things. And I'm like, you did. Like, let's talk about them. Let's love that. And then I provide a lot of career coaching. A lot of people go through their whole life and they're like, I don't need a career coach. But they also are missing out on some of these elements. They don't know these strengths that they have. And a career coach is valuable in really kind of showing you that, like, hey, you are actually really good at organization. Why are you not leveraging that? Like, you're good at managing teams. Like, why don't you take that next step? And a lot of people they just don't really think about it until someone comes to them and they're like, you are really good. And I want to show you how you could do this, or help you plan your next steps, or what certs you should get next. So that's where I do with the career coaching.
No, man, how do you get people to to be able to talk about themselves or express themselves on a resume or when they write about themselves?
Okay, so one of the things I learned earlier on is that you have to ask really strategic questions and you can't be afraid to ask the hard questions. A lot of people just ask like questions that just like scratch the surface and then they're like, oh, well, I got a really generic answer. Like you can't give me a generic answer. If I ask you a question that is like very detailed and very like focused on getting like one answer out of you. So there's no generics. I don't leave it up to that. And then I also dig deeper. So like, why do you think that way? Why do you do that? Explain to me why. Like, I really want to focus on the whys because that's what gets people thinking and realizing like, oh, like I do this because something happened like earlier in my life. And because of that, I'm very shy and now I don't want to express my ideas. And once we can get to the root of the problem, we can start coming up with the solution and trying to fix it.
No, that's awesome. So what are some of the, like, what would you say are some of the things that you help people with the most, or things that might, people might struggle with that you keep noticing when it comes to resume writing?
I think one of the biggest things a lot of people don't realize is that they have to make slight adjustments to their resume when they're applying for jobs so that they can match those keywords and they can actually like stand out and look like the candidate for that position. A lot of people just take, hey, I got a resume, and they use that one resume and apply for everything. They apply for database positions for it. They apply for software engineer positions for it, project management positions for it. And it's just one generic resume.
Hold on,
And
you mean
then
I
they're
can't
like,
just use one resume? I can't just take,
no,
I can't take 30 minutes and get the template and then fill my information and send that one resume to everybody?
no, you have
Okay.
to edit it, you have to modify it. And people miss out on that. They realize like look at that job description and then look at your resume. Are you convincing me that you are the person, or are you like showing me, oh, I have some of those things? Like you should make the hiring manager's job like super easy. I should look at your resume and be like, why have I not called you already? Not like, ooh, does he have the stuff? And I have to highlight and look really hard. Like you should make it simple and very easy for them.
So how many keywords should you use from, a posting or a job?
Honestly, as many as you can, as long as they're accurate. Like, don't go throwing them in like, yeah, I know Tableau when you've never looked at Tableau in your life. But as many keywords as you can should be in the cover letter and the resume as applicable to you and your experience. And also keep in mind that if you're looking at a job description and you're like, I'm 100% qualified for this job, you're looking at the wrong job description. You never want to apply for a job that you are 100% qualified for because you need to be challenged. You want to apply for a job that like you're like 60, 75%, and then I have room for growth and I can show them that I'm open to learning more. But you don't want a job where you're perfect for it.
So I'm gonna hold you right there. Old school. I've never heard that before. So
Yeah.
like I talked to so many people, even myself, when I was doing my job search, and I would only apply for jobs I felt that it was 100% match. Like, we go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to applying for jobs that you might not meet all the qualifications for, how do you gauge that? Because you don't want to apply for something and feel like you're lying, or feel like you don't even have to, you don't have a foot in the door.
Yeah. So I always say that when hiring managers or some of the people are putting these job descriptions together, it's usually not the person who needs that person. So the person who needs that, they're like, just kind of look up, I need a software developer. They need to do kind of like X, Y, and Z. Just put up something, let me know. They don't have time to do that post most of the time. So it's usually the hiring manager who's probably not technical, probably doesn't know exactly what all of these software products are, or that you might have one that's like similar, but not the exact one they need. So they're kind of just going to disqualify you. They don't know. So it's like, take that chance. Like, what's the worst thing that happens? No. Like, you get a no. You can nose every day, all day. Like, why not just take a chance on a job that you really want?
That is cool. So we got multiple resumes. Don't use the same one. Make sure that we do have it with keywords. So when the HR person or recruiter looks at it, they're saying, hey, I should have talked to Deja a year ago. Like, we needed this position filled. And then don't be scared to, put it out there for a position that you might not meet all the qualifications for. Got you. So what happens when, like, how do you help people that are trying to transition into, like, let's say a technical role? Like, what are some of the things you could do? Like, if a person was a teacher, or they might have been in sales or even in the military, and now they want to get into tech.
So that's one of the things where I help people identify their transferable skills. So when people are usually transferring, that's when I usually recommend, like, hey, let's do a career coaching package, because I think we might want to spend some time talking about what it is that you're really good at and how we can transfer that to whatever field you're looking at. So a lot of people like ignore transferable skills, but when we're looking at positions like this, where like you didn't do anything that was even remotely related to what you're trying to get into, we really have to focus in on, let's take the skills that are relevant. So maybe you coach, maybe you mentor, those are all valuable things. And then let's also see if we can maybe get you like a cert or two within this new field to really show that you're taking a leap forward and you are like actively trying to learn some tech stuff. If you were just like a teacher and you're trying to really get into tech and you're like, oh, I want to start off at a help desk role, like, okay, maybe we should take a look at A plus, Network plus, see how we can get those into your resume, and also show you can teach and mentor and coach, because those are all valuable as part of a team. We should all be coaching and mentoring one another.
Yeah. That's what you did, right? That's what helped you progress. That's see,
exactly.
Round robin. I love it. So what are some do's and don'ts you would say for people when they're preparing their resumes?
Okay, so don'ts. I know people always just like go to Google and they're like, first resume that says software engineer, and they're like, oh, this is perfect. I'm just gonna look at this, and I'm gonna use this to help guide my writing. I guess the problem is you looked at it, and so did a million other people, because they all have access to the same resources you do. So always be careful when you look at an example online. And same thing with the whole fake news mentality. How do you know that this is good? Like, why are you just taking the first thing that came up on Google? There's nothing saying, hey, this is a good example, other than the website. Like, hey, yeah, we have some good resume examples by whose qualifications, by whose standards. So always be careful when doing that. Like watching YouTube videos, there are tons of free videos you can find or free resources you can find where people are literally like, hey, these are some resume tips. Here, these are things. But try to like think critically about what people are saying. And someone's like, hey, on your resume, you need to put your full date of birth and your social security number. Like, don't just shake your head and be like, yes, this sounds good. You know, like think about it. Why do I need to put that on there? So try to think through things and really just try to find the right resources. There's tons of like also resume writers, and you don't have to pay for something if you can't afford it, but they might have a blog that gives you tips. Go there before you just go to like random websites to look for resources.
Okay, before we plug everybody else, do you do any of this? Do you have a blog? Do you do content?
I do. Yeah, so I do tips on social media. My social media is Tyla's Writing. And then I also do tips on my website. And
on details, remember, attention to details. You said my social. So what social media?
Or is Instagram. Oh, sorry. There we go. Instagram. Instagram is Tyla's Writing. And then I also have a blog. And also, if people subscribe to my email newsletter, every week they're getting tips. They're getting career tips. They're getting resume tips, things that help them. And they're welcome to reply if they have any questions. I always encourage them like, hey, hit reply. Let me know what doesn't make sense. Let's talk about it.
So in the show notes, we're going to put all of Deja's information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want you, everybody that's listening, contact her before you go to these other resources. You already have the source right here. Go right to her. She has the newsletter. She has the blog. She has the IG. Talk to our girl.
Thank you.
All right, cool. So that was some of the don'ts. So what are some of the do's?
Some of the do's. Let's see. There's so many. Always have a skill section. I've seen a couple of resumes where people just like skip the skill section, and that is like keyword central right there. And it also shows like just skills you have. I don't have to go look through your descriptions and guess, like they're already there. Also, I recommend including a summary. So a summary is usually about 2 to 3 sentences, and it's a high-level overview of who you are without me having to read further into your resume. So when you have that summary, basically your elevator pitch on paper, it's just like high level, hey, this is who you are, this is what you bring to the table, and this is the value that you have. And when you're writing that summary, stay away from saying things like, hey, I want a position that does this. Like people don't care about what you want, they care about what you have and what you bring to the table.
Got you, man. That's a gem right there. I didn't even think about the summary section. Like I had one, but like I didn't think about like, now I want, like, no, I bring, this is what I
Yeah, exactly.
So with the are you writing that in like third person, first person? Because I've seen different examples and people are like I, or other times people might say Antoine. What would your advice be on that?
So I always recommend like leaving out I's, like don't put an I in your cover letter. Yes, go ahead and put I do this, I do that. But in your summary or in your resume, you leave out the I. It's first person implied. So most of anything that happened in the past would be past tense. So I determined, I managed, I developed. You would just go into developed, you know? And then your summary would be like results oriented, professional, you kind of just like in that fashion, but you would use like, you don't use like verbs that end with s's. So determines, I determines doesn't make sense. I determine makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said that was like a head scratcher. I was like,
Yeah, you're like, what? But
like,
you see it. I see people's resumes all the time, and it's like thrives in this kind of environment. Think I before like any bullet, and see if it makes sense. I thrives, would it make sense? I thrive makes sense. I thrived makes sense.
yeah. So that just takes it back to the fundamentals. Make sure that you have basic, like English skills. It's just this common sense stuff. So you also touched on something else when it came to the cover letter, because that's always a question I get. Do you need to have a cover letter?
It's always a bonus. So it takes extra work, yes, but like, do you want this job? Because if you don't, then don't spend your time applying for it, you know? So take that extra leap and just write a cover letter. A cover letter is really just meant to show that you are the person for this position. And it should be interesting. It should like bring a little bit of your personality in and also show some of like your core accomplishments. So it should be just very quick, 1 page or less, and just high level overview of, hi, I'm Deja. This is what I bring to the table. I know I can help Apple with these 3 things, and here's how. Like, here are things I've done in the past that'll help me help you.
Gotcha. So would you say that because I'm thinking 2 different ways. Would I essentially like go in a little bit more detail in terms of some of the things, the bullet points that are on my resume, or would I use that just to like highlight myself?
I would definitely highlight yourself, but you can also highlight specific things on the resume. So like when you're writing that cover letter, I'm assuming you've already looked at the job description. You know that, hey, we really need someone who knows how to manage and lead a team and do X, Y, and Z, the SWOT analysis and this process here. So then you want to show in the cover letter, hey, I've been managing teams for 10 years. I do X, Y, and Z that you basically already said you need. Like you just kind of make it to the point where it's like, they're like, why am I not hiring you? And then they go in your resume and they're like, wow, like you have done it in all of these different positions. You are the candidate we need.
Man, so this is asking more and more questions. I'm clicking over here. So with the cover letter, since you said, hey, we want to talk and highlight ourselves, for people transitioning into like a different career, like I like to focus on cyber, like the gym teacher that wanted to be the cyber person, would this be a good place for them to highlight some of like the extracurricular, like, hey, not only am I passionate about this, but look, I got this certification, or I'm working on. Okay, cool. So,
yeah, so this is where you would do it in that cover letter. And this is also like, did you have a gap in your experience? Maybe you want to have a quick sentence explain that. Like, this is what the cover letter is intended for.
You know what this reminds me? It's almost like you're prepping for the interview. Like you answer all the questions that they might ask you beforehand. So once you get on the phone with them, because they are going to talk to you because you got Deja's advice, it's easier for you. So this is good stuff. So with that, do you use the same cover letter? And I might know the answer. I don't know. But do you use the same cover letter, or do you have multiple ones for each position that you apply for?
Multiple ones. So the cover letter, if let's say you didn't want to listen to the advice on the resume, because I get it, it takes a lot of time. Your cover letter needs to be different for every job. Very different, because it is all about that company. Like when you're writing the cover letter, you might have a sentence that talks about the company's mission and how that aligns with you, or it talks about the company recently has gotten into this industry or these products, and you fit that, and you understand that. And so it's very, very targeted when you're writing the cover letter. It's not something you can easily just copy and paste. You can create some sort of like template cover letter where it's like fill in the blanks with the company's information about this, or fill in the blanks and add 2 bullets that are related to something you saw in the job description. So you can create a somewhat of a template, but you can't just kind of like use the exact same cover letter for 4 different companies.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of this goes into what you might be doing with your career coaching, right?
Exactly.
So this is why you need a career coach. If you didn't know you needed one, this is why you need one, because she just gave you some gems. And so we have a cover letter. We have the template that we made based on that particular job. We highlighted ourselves. Moving on to the actual resume. How many pages? No, actually, no, I messed that up. Not the first, yeah, the resume. How many pages are acceptable for a resume?
I typically recommend for someone in tech 2 pages. So 2 pages is a good place to be. When you get maybe to a high level, like you're a director, you're a CEO or something, you can go into 3 pages. No one's going to be upset about that, especially with your career length. But I've seen a lot of people, they really focus on this whole 1 page thing. But think about it like this: if you're taking things out, you're definitely not going to get that job, because now you're taking out some of these critical aspects about you. So definitely go into 2 pages if you have to, and don't be afraid to do that. I definitely don't recommend going to 2 pages. If you're just going over by 2 lines or 3 lines, you can try to figure that out. But if you're going over by like a half a page, just do it. But make sure that your pages are also valuable content, not just like random fluff that doesn't matter, because then you could have gotten that down to 1 page.
This is great. So that tied me back into where I was going with the cover letter before I had my blank. So this is what we want to do is strategically look for roles. No spray and pray. You don't just look at, hey, I want to be a security analyst, and every job that says that, don't go and just apply for all of them with that same cover letter and resume. Like, actually do the due diligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with your coaching, like, what are some of the things that you use to help you match a candidate with a potential role or employer?
Okay. So with the coaching, I really just try to analyze what that person really wants. Like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this cyber analyst, but they didn't realize like there was another position that's very similar that actually aligns with what you are interested in. So kind of help them draw those like lines for themselves by first taking a look at, what is it that you want to do? What is it that, where are you trying to go? And help them like find a path. And usually like most people will order a couple of different coaching sessions, because one coaching session might not be enough to really deep dive and get them to where they need to go.
Can you tell us a little more about that? Like, how are your sessions set up when it comes to not only the coaching, but also like the other services that you provide?
So if people have one specific question, or maybe like two, and they just want to get answer and out, then you just really need one session. But if we're trying to look at your career and how it is as a whole, then we're going to need several sessions to like, let's first understand you. Let's get a better understanding of this. Now I can go off, do some research, take a look deeper at some of the stuff you mentioned. And now we can have another session where I present like, okay, let's do this. And then if some people, they might want to have another session in 2 months where they talk about, hey, I started doing this, or hey, I'm studying for the CCNA, I'm getting somewhere and I'm progressing. So it really kind of just depends on what your goals are and where you're trying to go.
Yeah. So
and then
I'm sorry, no, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so that's kind of how the sessions are. And then when it comes to resumes or cover letters or anything like that, I do packages. So it's like resume only, resume plus cover letter package, resume plus cover letter plus LinkedIn package, and they can kind of select, what package they need.
See, I love this. First, I want people, it's not a one and gone thing. It's a relationship thing. And it's like Deja is really wanting to help people with their career, not just a task, not just a job. So, when you come to the resume writing, it can go into like LinkedIn. We're going to talk about LinkedIn. That's not, this is my platform. LinkedIn is my platform. But like, yeah, so it's a continuous thing. Like, that's the number one thing I tell people is you want to build relationships. But even when you do get these services from people, like, you should trust them, but also, help them help you. Mm-hmm. So grow with each other. What are some of the things that you help people with on LinkedIn?
So with LinkedIn, I usually help people like start their whole profile. Like a lot of people like, oh, I threw something together, I never took it seriously. But people look at your LinkedIn profile all week, people, there might be hiring managers that are like, oh, I'm looking into this. And they see your profile and they're like, oh, well, they didn't even try. You have like a photo that's like not very professional. You put like one bullet underneath your job. So I want your LinkedIn to represent who you are. Like, put your background photo up there, have a professional photo. Let's have a background that talks about you and what you bring to the table, similar to like a cover letter, but like, different, because it's for the world to see. And let's make sure that you have job descriptions, that you've added all of your organizations, that you included the right skills, because when you search for it, they're searching for the skills that you've included on your profile. So walking through all of that, and then if people want to add in additional features where they're like, hey, can you show me how I can properly engage with people on LinkedIn? Can you show me how to like connect with people or how to find jobs? Then that's also coaching that I can help them with.
No, that is perfect. And if you see me look away, I'm looking at your profile right now. And it is fire. Everything that she says, she has it. So even in your, I love how you have your business right on your background. And then you have the professional photo. So it's like that by itself, it brings attention not only to you, but I know what you do already.
Exactly.
Yeah. So no, this is great. Do you have any like success stories that you could tell us about, or anything that happened with a client, or even anything you might be? Oh, cool.
Let's see. With COVID, a lot of people are, experiencing a lot going on where they're unable to find jobs. So I've had like a couple of people that have like reached out. They're like, I tried everything. I can't find what I need. I need help. And I've been able to kind of get these people from no one's calling me back, I'm getting nothing, to I've created their resume. And the next day I'm getting people say like, what? I finally got an interview. Like, I'm excited. I had one person who was on LinkedIn. They were posting their resume for the world to see. Like, guys, help me get anything. I'm just looking for something. And I like messaged her. I was like, hey, let me offer you some tips. So I gave her some free tips, offered her some advice, and she loved the tips so much that she was like, honestly, girl, just do it for me. So she paid for a package. I wrote it all for her, helped her get it to where she needed to go. And then she was coming back to me and she's like, I've been looking for jobs in this pandemic for like 4 months. Literally, I took your resume. Within 2 weeks, I have 4 interviews lined up. And she ended up getting offers for 2 of those jobs. And she picked the one based off of, which was best for her at the time. Literally went for months, like asking anyone and everyone to help her. And people were like, oh, like, good luck. But no one's offering her advice. I'm offering her free tips, like, do all these things. And she was so motivated. She's like, you know what? I'm just going to pay you to do it for me. So that
is an amazing story. Because, I talk to a lot of people when I hear a lot of, just try harder. Keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
exactly.
Like that, when you don't know where you're going, or you don't have, like, show me a little bit. So that is great. So you were able, she was looking for 4 months, like in the middle of a pandemic. And with the tips you gave her, in 2 weeks, 4 interviews, 2 offers, and she picked the one that she really wanted.
Exactly.
You out here changing lives. You're a miracle worker.
Just trying to help people. It's hard times.
That is so. Earlier, like at the beginning of our conversation, you had kind of talked about, I guess, like, technology is kind of, it's not diverse enough. Like now it is, I guess. Like how do you feel like, or what's your experience as a woman being in tech?
I'd say as a woman in tech, I feel like a lot of opportunities are given to me. I feel like people are always like, what, you're a woman in tech? Like, we got to get you into some stuff. Like, we want to show you to the world. We want other people to be as motivated as you are. So I feel like I've had that advantage, and I feel like a lot of advantages. And I think that it's a really big thing to be role models for other people. So as soon as you do something that someone else might not be able to do, offer advice, try to mentor them so they too can get to where you are. A lot of people don't think like, oh, well, I'm still learning, I can't mentor anyone, but you did something that someone else hasn't been able to do yet. Like, oh, you got into college and you got your degree. Someone hasn't gotten their degree. Figure out if there's someone who seems like they need help that you could be a role model for, and also show them the way. Like, you got your first job, you've been through applying for jobs, someone else might need help. Or a sophomore in college that can't figure out this whole how to get an internship thing. So I always like believe in trying to be a role model and like help build up that diversity in all aspects, not just race, but like, or women or man, but like really helping in the form of like, some people, we might need more leaders in tech, like, so different skill sets, different strengths, building up that diversity as well.
Man, that is so. What would you say to somebody that's just like, they don't know what they want to do, and they're like, oh, you already had a go.
Now I'm thinking there's so many people who are like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. And it's mainly because I don't think they've thought too hard about where they want to go. Like, it's less about what you want to do. It's more about where you want to go. What are you passionate about? Because there's something in everything. Like, oh, I'm super passionate about talking to people. I'm super passionate about writing. Like, we can find something for you. Just figure out what you're passionate about. Like, what could you do for the rest of your life and be like, I like this, I can do this. What would you do for free? What would you do if someone sat you in a room and said, for 24 hours, you need to do whatever it is, what would you do? Are you going to sleep the whole time? Like, what is it that you like? You like sleeping? Maybe we should do some research on sleeping. You can be a researcher, you know, but there's something for everybody. And it's just a matter of figuring out what your passion is.
Yeah. Find a passion. Let Deja ask you some questions. Think critically, like plan for the long term, like, you know, and be open to advice. I love the advice you said, you know, be a mentor and give back. And it's diversity, you know, not just only for women, but in leadership and all the different ways that people can give back. I'm assuming that you would encourage other people to hop into networking, but also into tech.
Oh, yes, definitely. I really like the tech fields. I think it has so much to offer. And I see like everybody's trying to jump into it. So like literally come to this field. Like this is where it's at, you know?
So right now, like it sounds like everybody, like probably because of my feed and the algorithm, but everything that pops up on my on my feed says tech, you know, whether it's a certification or is jobs available or is something going on with everybody making the transition into tech. How do you, I guess you already answered, like, how do you remain competitive? Like, is there enough room for everybody?
I think there's always going to be enough room for everybody. And especially with more and more tech companies popping up, like just because it's a tech company, they still need communications people. They still need admin assistants. They still need marketing directors. Like they still need all of these roles. It's just now focused on tech or SaaS. So I definitely think there's room for everyone. And how to stay competitive is really just do what you do and do it really good. Like, and everyone's always going to need someone with your specialized skill set or your generalized skill set if you decide you don't want to niche down. But definitely always just do what you do the best. Don't focus on other people. Don't compare yourself to other people. Just do what you do the best and keep going. Be better than who you were yesterday, who you were last week, and set goals.
Goals. I love goals. Have your goals. Like that.
Exactly.
That's your roadmap. You know, you follow your goals to your dreams. So you can sleep, because if you wanted to be that person that sleeps all day, there you go.
Exactly.
All right. So this is one question I always ask everybody on the show. What is something that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have?
Oh, that's a hard one. Something you didn't ask me that I should. I guess like if I did it all over again, would I have chose tech? And I'd say definitely. Like I have skill sets in a lot of different fields, like writing, for example, but like I still have a true passion for technology. And I don't think I would have changed anything. I'm very happy I took that AP computer science class, and I'm happy it's gotten me to where I am today. I think a lot of fields have other people, and they probably have great leaders in those fields, but I'm very happy being a leader in tech.
No, that is awesome. I love that question. Now I'm gonna jot it down and I'm gonna ask everybody else. All right. And the last thing is, can you give everybody your very detailed, let's go slow too.
Okay.
Your social media, how to get in contact with you. So we can make some connections happen to build some relationships.
No, absolutely. So my social media, I'm going to go slow this time, guys. Instagram at Tyla's Writing. So that is TYLAS Writing. And that's Instagram. You can find me on Instagram there. You can also find me on Twitter, same handle. And then if you want to kind of email, it will be support at TYLAS Writing Services. So that is writingservices.com. So that is also my domain. So you can find my website there. But that's kind of all my contact information. Very easy for people to get in touch with me. If you have a question or you have a question about a package, then feel free, just go ahead and contact me.
Well, there we go. Another one in the books. A great conversation with Deja. Thank you so much for being on. Thanks for bringing the energy. You got me hyped over here.
Thank you. It's morning time. I love it.
So I am going to post this on as a podcast, like an audio podcast. So if you are listening to this, just know, like, we're smiling. It's a good time. Hope you feel this energy on your drive or your jog, whatever you're doing. But hey, it's been great talking to you. Everybody, stay in contact with Deja. Listen to this a few times. Tell a friend to tell a friend and share it. We'll talk to you soon.